Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Deja Vu here, bringing you set 5 of this first playoff series in the Winners League between Hite, Entus, and SKT1. Both big players for Hite, Entus have fallen in Hydra and Lita. All three are still alive for SKT1. Fantasy is still playing after getting 2 kills. He's still playing, and he's also going to go for the win here with SKT up 3-1. He's going to go for the win against Movie, the Protoss player. And really, he was Hite Entus' best remaining chance to get 3 kills. It's going to be a long, tough... Would be a... Wow, how impressive would that be if Movie can somehow 3-kill his way and get Hite Entus out of this bind that they're in. That would be so impressive to beat Fantasy and then beat Best and Bisu. That's 3 players right now, Fantasy, Best, and Bisu, who are near the top, if not the best, in their respective races at beating Protoss players. If Movie can do it, I would be so amazed, and this would be one of the greatest comebacks in Winners League playoff history for sure. One of the greatest comebacks. If Movie can pull that off, it would be so impressive. But first things first, he's going to have to beat Fantasy on Circuit Breaker. Circuit Breaker has been basically a very even map for all races, all matchups. Everything's been very, very even. There really isn't any race imbalance, so I don't think we got anything to worry about in that sense. It's going to be pretty much come down to these 2 players, and how well they can play to the map and what strategies they go for. Looks like Movie's going to play pretty standard here for now. I think I just saw him throw down a gateway. There's the Bisu. If he's needed, he can come out to try and defeat Movie. And it looks like Movie is he actually scouting cross positions? Yes, he is. Wow. Maybe he's searching for proxies, but he is going cross positions right now. So he's going to get a very quick scout on Fantasy, and is going to go for, possibly even go for a gas steal with that early scout, since it's going there cross positions, and he might be able to get that off and build his game from there. Cheers for Hite Entus, it looks like there. And go up the rip, there you go. That probe had a little bit of AI failure, having some trouble getting up that ramp. And actually going to use this probe to harass this SCV. He has actually gotten a bunch of hits on it, and before some other SCVs came in to help it out. And we're going to have a 1-gate expo from Movie here. Very, very quick expansion. No cybernetics core even. So 1 gate, 1 zealot right into expo. And he's actually going to send this zealot on the attacks. Going to try and keep Fantasy back. Going to try and keep the pressure on. It's actually very interesting because there's no scout out yet for Fantasy. He has no idea that he's cross position. So when he does eventually push these units out, he's going to, if he tries to do, some kind of counter push with the first couple zealot or first couple vultures or something, he's probably going to go to the wrong location unless he can get a scout. It looks like he actually has snuck an SCV out, so that's going to help him out quite a bit. But that could have been a little bit of an advantage for Movie if it had developed that way. And this zealot's just going to force Fantasy to micro a lot here and just bother him, pull off a couple SCVs to delay some mining. Definitely going to be a little bit of an advantage. And he thought he could actually maybe pick at that other Marine that was in that gap, but I guess he couldn't or shouldn't in that position. And he's going to keep this zealot alive and just going to go into full retreat here. And the pressure has ended with that 1 zealot. There was really, obviously, there was no reinforcements coming in to support that zealot. It looks like a second zealot has been produced, and a 2nd gateway has gone up with the cybernetics core, so he's going to be able to start getting some dragoons out, and that will be well in time to counter any sort of a vulture run-by. Should be, anyways. And Fantasy has guarded out. He went halfway to the bottom left, and then went to the top right, and now he's going to the bottom right. So kind of an odd scouting pattern here from Fantasy, but it's going to end up working for him. Nothing too painful for him. And we actually saw Fantasy he's looking for proxies right now. I remember Movie actually went for proxies in that OSL finals against Flash. He actually went for some proxy proxy reavers that were actually scouted out, but he did do some damage with that attack. So that's definitely something Fantasy was a little bit worried about and was scouting out there for a little bit. But nothing like that to worry about. Movie playing pretty non-sneaky here so far in this game. Movie. And Fantasy working on his upgrades, getting his 2nd base up. And yeah, nothing at all abnormal coming from Fantasy here. which is definitely a little bit different. In that last game, it looked like he was going to play pretty normal, and then suddenly you just saw a bunch of SCVs and Marines and a couple Vultures, and they just pushed across the map. Didn't even wait for a tank, just went straight across the map and put down a couple bunkers, got them going, and really pinned Snow in for a little bit, which was I definitely was not expecting that attack to come off, but he did pull it off, and pulled it off very, very well, so that was really cool. Second Assimilator has finished for Movie and needs to start mining from it. I'm sure he's going to do it momentarily. And Fantasy taking a third base right off the bat, going to take that mineral only that he's got open to him. Movie coming in with a probe to get a scout on, not going to have any luck there. That scout actually just doesn't scout anything. All it sees is a singular Vulture. Fantasy still working off only one gateway. That's a really low gateway count, or one factory. So really low factory count right now. We have 3 gateways coming up will be completed shortly for Movie. So a little bit more coming out for Movie, just because he got his natural up a little bit earlier and has delayed his third. Should have observers out pretty soon as well to counter these mines that are obviously going to be able to pin Movie in until the observer comes out. First tank is finally out. This is pretty late for a first tank, actually. We're what, like 5 minutes into the game, 5.5 minutes into the game or so, and first tank finally coming out now. Third base almost completed for Fantasy as well. And how will this game develop? This is kind of shaping up that Movie. I want to see what his tech choice is. This looks like I have a feeling that Movie's going to go for kind of a 2-base Arbiter build here. Just getting that feeling. He's not showing any sort of aggression of pushing out, not showing any sort of really showing some really passive play for a Protoss player here in this matchup. Waiting for that observer, I think, and that's about it. He's got another pylon going down, no Citadel, so we will see. This is kind of odd for Movie, not going down any real tech choice here. Not going towards Arbiters or Carriers, not going towards anything at the moment. And it could just be a delayed third base here. That's what it's starting to look like. But I'm kind of curious to see what he decides to go with. Fantasy should be getting a couple more factories up very, very shortly, and that would be important. And we'll see the armory timing to see the upgrades, how many upgrades he's going for. Maybe he'll go for a 2-1 push or something like that off of these 3 bases, or he could just do what he did last game. It looked like last game he just waited until he was very close to maxed out. That was a huge army that came rolling out of his base. Very, very passive by both players actually in the last game, and then Fantasy just rolled out with a huge army while Snow overexpanded. We got a shuttle out here for some Zealot bombs, and now Movie moving a little bit more aggressively across the map. Has that observer out, has the Zealot bombs, has a force of Dragoons, and he's going to try and play a little bit more aggressively. And he's packed some units in there into his pylon wall at his natural expansion, so he's going to be protected from any sort of a Vulture run by. And I think this could be a pretty effective attack. There's only 1 or 2 tanks. Okay, looks like there's 3 tanks there now. But with proper Zealot bombs, you can absolutely take that down with some good Zealots being dropped there right on top of those tanks. And he could actually take this. I don't know if he's going to go for it. A 4th tank has just been thrown in. Will he go for it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tanks now. There come the Zealot bombs. 1, 2, 3. 3 Zealots have been dropped off and doing some damage here. SCVs coming off the line to try and block these Dragoons are going to be very, very effective. But 2 tanks go, 3 tanks, 4 tanks, 5 tanks. All the tanks go down. So that is a hugely effective Zealot bomb attack by Movie. How wonderful was that? That was fantastically executed. And that's going to let him get his third base up very, very easily, as well as putting a whole lot of pressure on all these SCVs and doing some damage. Unfortunately for Movie, these SCVs so powerful in the as worker warriors. They're like I don't know. Well, powerful worker warriors. Let's just leave it at that. And they're able to clean up what little was left. A couple of Zealots on a Dragoon that was left alive, and they all get cleaned up. So no more pressure from that force. But Movie has brought in some reinforcing Dragoons and a Zealot as well. He needs to try and get in there and try and take down these tanks. There's 2 have been produced. Looks like the first one is going to go down. The second one looks like it's very, very much at risk, and the second one does go down here. So now he'll be able to start pecking at some more SCVs, do some more damage, picking off this the Marines as they get produced. But there are a lot of SCVs. Movie needs to bring in some reinforcements as soon as he possibly can. These SCVs will just decimate his Dragoons. It's kind of ridiculous that these workers are going to be able to do that, but they will. If he doesn't get some more Dragoons into play, they will end up cleaning this out, especially with the reinforcing units that are coming. There's a couple more units coming in to reinforce, and that's going to be enough to clean this up for now until the reinforcing units come back in. And will Movie maintain the pressure, or will he kind of back off here? He is going for a carrier build off of only one Stargate right now. We'll see when if a second and third Stargate gets done. There's the second, and will we see a third? That is the question right now. Movie going in with these Dragoons again. Looks like they're going to pick off one tank, and I don't think they're going to get the second one. Maybe just... Oh, no, not able to get that second tank. The second tank getting repaired while taking damage, so just barely able to survive. And Movie also taking this opportunity to take the 6 o'clock base, so he's going to work on getting a 4th base up and running and throwing down another gateway as well. So there we go. There's Movie's build. It's going to be carrier supported by Dragoons, I expect. I don't think we've seen any inkling of Storm, of a Citadel and Templar Archives. I think that's a little bit too much to ask of his gas at this moment. And some Vultures coming in at the 6 o'clock position are going to get blocked off by this pylon wall, but they are going to see that base, and information is power in StarCraft, so that's very important for Fantasy to know that that's up, and he knows that that was a very, very recent base as well. I think he saw the Maynard going down. So 2 Stargates are going to be pumping carriers very, very shortly. 6 gateways will be pumping units for Movie. That will be the army composition for him. And for Fantasy, it looks like we have about 9 factories, and it doesn't look like he's looking to take a 4th base right now, so 9 factories are going to be countering what Movie's got. And some Vultures getting into the 6 o'clock base again. Only 1 Dragoon there to defend at the moment. He's going to have to bring some more in, and here they come. Looks like he's going to lose 1 Dragoon to mines, but he needs to defend against this a little bit better. He's losing a bunch of probes. He lost a couple Dragoons as well, so he actually did take a decent bit of damage there from those Vultures. And it looks like Fantasy just trying to escape right now with those Vultures, and he's going to be able to get out of there with his Vultures more or less intact, with at least a few of them. But has done a pretty decent job overall. That was really the only real attack that's come onto his probes so far, so hasn't lost too many. Still very much doing well economically. And there's a 3-1 to 3-4 prediction for Hite Entus coming back, and that's a lot of mines. Looks like they are going to go all over Movie's troops, and Movie losing a bunch of units here to mine play, and the power of Vultures and Spider Mines being shown right there by Fantasy. Fantasy's got some great Vulture micro, and those are a lot of damage units. It looks like most of them are alive, but they are very, very much damaged. I saw a couple mines go off on top of those Dragoons and Zealots. So the army for Movie not as strong as it appears. And here comes a big attack from Fantasy at the 6 o'clock position, and those tanks are going to be really effective. Going to be able to destroy the wall, the pylon wall, and now they're going after the Nexus as well. And I think that Movie is just going to sacrifice that base. Don't reveal your carriers yet, Movie. Don't reveal them until you decide that unless you're not going to try to defend it. If you're going to try and defend that base, you need to send everything there. Otherwise, keep your carriers hidden as long as you possibly can. You've only got 2 right now, and never mind. It looks like Fantasy knows that they're there. He is researching the Goliath upgrade, so now revealing the carriers is the only thing to do. Now he's just going to start trying to pick off as many tanks as he possibly can. Fantasy at this point is just going to go on the attack and try and blow up as much as he can, try and take down another base, and if he's able to do that, maybe he can hinder Movie's eco enough that the carriers don't have enough support. So that's the plan right now. 3rd carrier has come out for Movie trying furiously to defend this mineral only. Some Vultures coming in as reinforcements as well. Will Fantasy be able to take this base down? Looks like he's going to be able to take down a ton of the probes, that's for sure. All these Vultures, obviously, they only attack ground, so the only ground units left to attack are buildings and probes, and a bunch of Vultures go into the natural expansion as well. We're going to throw out a ton of mines. This is the rally point as well for Movie, so this is a huge problem right now with mines all over your rally, all over your natural expansion. That is not a position you want to be in. Look at those mines. This is going to be terrible for him. And a big mine goes off on that Dragoon, catching about 8 probes as well, so that is a huge mine going off, destroying Movie's eco, and it looks like Movie's on his last legs here. Movie is going to go down. Fantasy is going to win this game. He's already got Goliath streaming in, and Movie is going to fall. Fantasy is going to win this series for SK Telecom 1 with 3 kills. Sack getting the kill on the first game on Lita. Fantasy getting the next 3 on Hydra, Snow, and now Movie. Movie will try and stay in this for a little bit longer, it seems like, but I can't imagine him coming away with this, losing all that eco. His base has been completely scouted out. His buildings, his tech, everything. I mean, he'll be able to survive because he has carriers, and because carriers are so powerful, he'll have a little bit of a chance to hold off for a while until the Goliaths get up there and count, but he just doesn't have the bases to really support the carriers properly. He's trying to get this 3 o'clock base up and running. If he's able to get the 3 o'clock base up and running, we could possibly, maybe, if he's got some really good strategic play, work his way back into this, but he's definitely going to be in trouble. The Soul Tank for Fantasy did go down, so that is something to delay him in terms of his assaults. But there's just, you know, there are a lot of Goliaths, and you really need Storm or a big group of units to support your carriers. And it looks like Movie's actually starting to build up a decent force of carriers, so maybe that was a little bit premature in calling this game for Fantasy. But still, I still favor Fantasy. I think Movie has just lost so much and has so little going for him. I mean, Fantasy has gotten that 12 o'clock base up and running now as well, so he's going to have a lot of eco. He's ganking the bottom left-hand base, so just, you know, he's playing this properly when you're going against carriers. Just build everything everywhere, build a lot of Goliaths, and see what happens from there. And an attack coming in here on the high ground where that Fantasy is controlling right now, and not going to be very effective. A couple siege tanks in there as well, so the Dragoons are going to be forced to retreat. Fantasy also taking the top right base. So basically, Fantasy is going to take bases in every corner of the map. And how many places can the carriers go? They can only be in one place at a time. And, you know, you have a ground force. Perhaps you can separate it from your carriers for a little while and try and take one side down or the other. But you can't afford to leave your carriers naked and unprotected for too long. So that is the advantage for Fantasy right now with taking these bases all over the place. And he's getting some turrets up and running, and these Dragoons look like they're actually going to go for the 12 o'clock position. He's got some Zealots coming in here to defend as well, but these two tanks in the back could actually be enough to basically defend against the ground ships. He needs to get the carriers involved and needs to pick off those tanks at the back if he's going to keep his ground forces in play to take down this base. And it looks like he's just, I don't know if he's got enough. He's got a bunch of Dragoons actually starting to pick at these SCVs and pick at the base of 12 o'clock position. If he can take this down, this could be a huge win for him, could really bring him back into this. And Goliath starting to peck at the carriers, and this command center is at risk, but the tanks are finally in range to defend it, and Movie forced to retreat, losing a few more Dragoons along the way. So this attack at the 12 o'clock base ends up being ineffective, and he loses a lot of Dragoons, Movie does, in this attack. And the bases for Fantasy at the top right, the bottom left getting a huge main arc, are both now operational. So Movie, looking at his side count, is about 100. He's got 500, 1500 in the bank. Actually just spent a lot of it. So he's got some gas. I don't know if he has a Templar Archives yet, but he could go for maybe try and get some Storm involved in here. A Zealot at the top right is just being annoying right now for Fantasy, but he'll be able to defend against this and get that base up and running pretty soon. We see his, oh shoot, I missed his side count, but it looked like his money was at about 500, 800 or something like that. So he's doing pretty well in terms of keeping his money down. These carriers still trying to keep the pressure on this 12 o'clock position. It looks like the Goliaths are actually starting to run a little bit low in numbers, but they do pick off a carrier. That is huge. That is absolutely huge. But the Interceptors, are there enough Interceptors in there? He needs to rebuild some, I think. The Interceptor count started to look really, really low there. And there's a bunch of turrets being brought in as a secondary line of defense as well. So the tanks are supported by the Goliaths. The Goliaths are supported by the addition of some missile turrets. So some good work there from Fantasy defending this 12 o'clock position. It has this bottom left hand working as well. As Zealot comes in there but getting cleaned up. Looks like the top right will probably go down to the Zealots if he uses them in that fashion. He could try to attack the 12, but I don't know if he's going to have much success. There are enough tanks there. These carriers keep going for the Goliaths, which, I mean, they're important because they are the force that's going to end up killing the carriers, if anything. But his ground forces are just so ineffective when with the tanks in the back. So it's kind of a balancing act that Movie has to figure out in terms of killing tanks versus killing Goliath. And here he comes in for another attack with Zealots in front, taking the tank damage. Dragoons coming in behind and the carriers behind that. So he's going to be able to take down a couple of tanks here. And now he has the high ground, so that is a little bit of an advantage for him. Maybe he can try and use that to do some damage to the army here. But no, just not enough. Again, just not enough. Movie playing this pretty well here, actually, trying to deal with the bottom left and top right by not sending his carriers, not sending a big group, just sending a couple Zealots here, a couple Zealots there, just enough to keep the pressure on, but not a huge attack. But does he have enough here? Again, the carriers doing a ton of damage. The carriers are the main force here, trying to do the damage, and the ground forces and support just, again, just not enough to really win a battle. They are enough to keep the carriers alive and to do some damage, but not enough to win a battle. And now the carrier's going to the 12 o'clock. There are a good number of turrets there, so we'll see how much damage he's able to do. And Fantasy neglecting his 12 o'clock base, instead going on the attack. This is the only real operational base that Movie will have shortly. His natural has got to be close to mined out. We see Fantasy's almost mined out. Movies has got to be almost mined out. If he loses that 3 o'clock base, he's not going to be able to support these carriers for much longer. So Fantasy playing this very, very strategically, rather than just going for the army, going for the money, going for the economy that's supporting the army, and you know, that's going to be one way to destroy carriers, is to destroy the ability to produce interceptors. Another carrier goes down, so the carrier count getting quite low, and Movie running out of steam here on his last legs. Looks like he's just got a couple of carriers left. This 3 o'clock base has gone, well, it's about to go down very, very shortly to all these siege tanks. He's got a couple of Archons here, which is kind of an interesting choice. I guess they can kind of meat shield since there aren't any vessels or anything. You're not going to see an EMP, so they can kind of meat shield. But the storms are what's going to do the damage, but he's not going to have that. So kind of a, I guess you can kind of look at it, the Archons will soak up a lot of damage while the carriers are trying to do damage, while trying to do more damage, I guess. But really, this is basically over. Now, again, this is basically over. Hite Entus is really going to lose here. You know, Archons are just not that good. I mean, against a mech army, look at this. They're just getting melted. Just too many units for Movie, and Movie with that disappointed look on his face. He knows it. I think we all know it now. I guess I prematurely called it a little bit a few minutes ago, but in the end, Fantasy does win this. None of Movie's ploys once his carriers were revealed were enough to save him here. So GG coming from Movie, and that is that. SKT1 will be moving on here in the Winners League to the next round. I'm trying to remember who was actually the second place team. I know first is KT. Second place, I can't really remember who actually has second place, because I don't think it's a... I wonder who actually has second place right now, just checking it out. Looks like it's actually Wasson Oz, surprisingly enough. Looks like Wasson Oz actually took second place in the Winners League. Yeah, very impressive there. Wasson Oz actually taking second place. So SKT, Wasson Oz, and KT Rolster are the three teams left. SKT is going to play Wasson Oz sometime next week to see who earns the right to play Flash and the rest of KT Rolster. So I'll definitely bring you the next round of the Winners League playoffs. I might do another MST group. We'll see. I haven't decided yet whether or not I will do an MST group. I believe Jangby might actually be playing tonight. I'm checking it out right now. Jangby's actually playing tonight, so I might actually do his group, MSL Survivor Group 10, Action Ruby, Jangby in mind. I suspect I'll do that group, and then probably next week I'll do the next Pro League playoffs, Winners League playoff round. So that's about it for me. That's our 5 sets. And if you're wondering why I took kind of a month-long hiatus, just as a side note, for my spring break, I actually ended up going to China for 9 days. So I was kind of out of the country for a long time, and then when I came back, you know, had a lot of things to take care of. So that's kind of why I haven't done too many commentaries in the last few weeks, because of that trip and coming back and trying to get everything back in order. When you're gone for that long, you know, some things take some time to work back into order. So that's that. I will bring you some more commentaries soon. And GG's, guys. SKT beating Hite Entus 4 games to 1 off of Fantasy's 3 kill.